The HOA president was standing on my grandmother's porch, waving eviction papers and grinning like she'd just won the lottery, thinking she'd finally gotten rid of the last eyesore in her perfect little lakeside kingdom. What Brina Caldwell didn't realize was I actually owned the lake she was staring at, and maybe more importantly, I owned the only parking lot her entire neighborhood used. I'm Ezra, and 3 months ago I thought I was about to lose everything my family built. All because one power-hungry neighbor decided I didn't fit her vision of paradise. You ever wonder what you'd do if somebody tried to steal your family's legacy? Yeah, that happened to me. Let me back up a second because this war started long before those papers ever hit my front door. 2 years back, I inherited my grandmother Opal's lakefront cabin when she passed at 91. It wasn't anything fancy, just a solid old place built in '63 from cedar perched at the edge of a patch of wild pine and marsh. 3 generations of my family called it home. She always joked it was worthless swampland, winking like she knew something I didn't. Turns out she did. After my marriage imploded and my big city job stopped making sense, I left downtown consulting for remote tech work, and that little cabin became my sanctuary. Each dawn brought the loon calls echoing over glassy water-blue herons, stalking the shallows like ballerinas. In the evenings, I'd sit on the old dock with my feet in water so clear you could count every stone at the bottom. That cabin felt like coming home to myself every single time. But you know how it is, paradise always attracts parasites. About 3 years ago, a developer named Morrison finished this massive project, Lakeshore Estates. 47 copy-paste McMansions popped up all around our lake. Most of the new neighbors were decent enough retirees, running from city noise, young families chasing the same piece I'd found. But every neighborhood seems to get a dictator, and ours strutted in wearing tennis whites and driving a spotless BMW. Enter Brena. Within 6 months, she'd crowned herself queen of the Waterfront Improvement Committee, making it her mission to protect property values at any cost. Her reign started with the sweetest folks, the elderly Kowalskis, fined $300 for refusing to paint their shed beige. Then she came for Chuck Martinez, a Vietnam vet, demanding he take down his unauthorized flagpole. The sound of her heels clacking on pavement became our local air raid siren. Whenever you heard it, you knew someone was about to get lectured. 18 months ago, the HOA was officially born, and that's when Brena made her move for absolute control. She convinced the board to claim retroactive authority over every waterfront lot, including my grandmother's cabin, which predated all of this by 40 years. My Uncle Morris, a retired real estate lawyer, always said HOAs get away with this because most folks don't challenge them. Brena, she was bold enough to claim control over land that had been catching fish before she was even born. It escalated fast. Suddenly I was getting bills, $300 for community fees, $1,200 in penalties because my cabin's cedar siding wasn't the right shade of vinyl. I tossed them in the fireplace, figuring no court on earth would take them seriously. I mean, my family's place had been grandfathered in since forever, or so I thought. I'd never actually checked what legal protections inheritance properties carried, and Bernard doesn't back down. She hired some lawyers straight out of a cereal box and filed bogus liens on my place. When that didn't work, she dug through my divorce records, painting me as an unstable drifter. The neighborhood split her little cult of true believers on one side, and the rest just trying to keep their heads down. Most folks didn't care if my place looked rustic instead of bland. Then came that Tuesday morning, Brenna marching up my steps in her tennis skirt, clutching eviction papers like a war drum. Watching her stand on that porch, lecturing me about standards on land my family built, I remembered that twinkle in my grandmother's eye. I decided right then it was time to find out what she'd really left me. Next morning, sipping my coffee and watching Brena's BMW and what everyone called the community lot, I got to work. Within 12 hours of her ultimatum, she'd filed a code complaint saying my grandmother's old workshop was unsafe, the same workshop that had survived 57 winters. At a barbecue that weekend, I watched her spinning tales about my erratic behavior, warning people I'd ruin their investment. She blasted me online with unflattering photos of my cabin, ranting about when cooperation breaks down. Her post got 3 likes and 47 eye-roll emojis, but the poison was spreading. That's when something Morris said last Christmas came back to me. He'd talked about property law, how old lakefront parcels often have special rights. Nobody bothers to research. Monday morning, I was digging through county courthouse files, and Dorothy, the clerk who's seen it all, helped me out. Old waterfronts are like vintage wine, she said. Sometimes they get better with age. Turns out our land carried established riparian rights from the original 1891 homestead patent, meaning our family's water access couldn't be overridden. Even better, Dorothy found a 1962 boundary survey, the one that counted, showing our property stretched another 200 feet further east than any modern map. My blood ran cold. That's the parking lot. I photocopied everything and rushed to Morris's office. His eyes lit up. Ezra, your grandmother was playing chess while Brenna's playing checkers. Your HOA problem just became their parking problem. But we needed a modern survey to make it stick, so I called Dylan Pike, the original surveyor's son. Dylan's GPS gear confirmed every word. My property line sliced right through the so-called community parking. Dylan grinned. 15 parking spots and the main road, they're all yours. And the kicker, the lake's bottom where all the boat slips floated belonged to us too. By Friday, Brenna had called an emergency HOA meeting, door-to-door propaganda campaign in full swing, gathering signatures for legal action. Her army grew, but so did mine. That weekend, I dug through every box in grandmother's basement. I found the original 1962 hand-drawn survey and every legal scrap of our history. Dylan confirmed every inch matched the modern GPS readings. It was bulletproof. Meanwhile, Brenna kept escalating, hired a PI to snoop filed code complaints. Even got a tired city inspector out to hunt for violations. He found 0. She spun rumors about me being unstable, dragging my divorce and mental health through the mud. Some neighbors bought it, others quietly rooted for me. But Sandra Thompson, whose husband worked construction, started asking questions. The Kowalskis began documenting every one of Brenna's moves. Momentum was shifting. I installed security cameras, tracked every car parking on my land, and built an alliance with the sane folks tired of Brenna's games. Garrett, my quiet neighbor, turned out to be running his own anti-Brenna op. He handed over folders stuffed with evidence of her embezzling HOA funds, faking legal costs, and using HOA money to pay her BMW lease. It was a gold mine of corruption. Friday night, the community center was packed. Brenna stood up, slideshow blazing, listing my crimes, demanding daily fines, even eviction. She had her lawyer, Bradley Pearson, sitting beside her, looking ready for a TV courtroom scene. I let her go on, watching the neighbors nod until it was my turn. Before you vote, I said, I think you should see something. Dylan fired up his projector, and there on the wall were the real boundaries, my boundaries, showing most of the parking lot, and the road belonged to me. Gasps around the room. Brenna tried to bluster, but Morris calmly explained the law. You've been trespassing, not building equity. Then I dropped the lake bombshell. The water you've all been using, paying the HOA for access, that's my family's according to state records. Every boat slip, every dollar wrong hands. Chaos. Some neighbors yelled, some just stared. Brenna's pearls might as well have been choking her. Sheriff Martinez, there to keep the peace, brought everyone back to order. Let's talk solutions, he said, voice cutting through the panic. That's when I offered the olive branch. Parking $25 a month per family. Lake access plus $100 a year, half what the HOA charged. Boat slips $75, way below market. The vote 46 in favor. Brenna abstained, her power evaporating right there. Within weeks, Brenna was gone under state investigation, house sold at a loss. The community fund fixed up the lot, built a real beach, and even started a scholarship in my grandmother's name for local kids. Folks painted their sheds any color they wanted, veterans flew their flags, and every neighbor finally got to use the lake legally and proud. The press called our story a model for fixing HOA disasters the right way with research guts and a little neighborly decency. So what would you do if someone tried to erase your family's legacy? Would you fight or fold? Drop your stories in the comments and let me know where you're watching from, because this isn't just my battle, it's happening everywhere. And if you like seeing everyday people stand up to bullies, hit subscribe and stick around. This movement's just getting started.